Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim, sponsored by DownloadTennis.com. On today's Billie Jean King Cup Day 2 catch-up.
Paula Badosa keeps GB hopes alive.
Coco Gauff gets a late-night win.
And Joel faces off against Danielle Collins in the press room.
Today is the 10th of November and we are here to catch up on Day 2 of the Billie Jean King Cup finals in Glasgow at Tennis Weekly HQ. We had a bit of a late night last night. We're going to put that all down to Elisabetta Cocchiaretto and Jill Teichmann, who had a 3.5-hour match in the day session, which meant we were there till the bitter end. What was it, 1 a.m? We didn't get back here till...
I think it was the 1 a.m. or the 1:30 bus, so...
We were debating, do we record, do we not, do we wait till the morning, and we just, as big tennis fans as we are, we were running on fumes, weren't we?
We were indeed. I think the enthusiasm that we would have had if we'd have done it this morning would be quite different to late last night at the 2 a.m. club.
I am just really thankful the DJ was playing out some absolute bangers.
She was working overtime.
Yeah, she was working overtime.
She had some mixes. She was not just plugging in her iPod. So that is definitely something that we were impressed by.
Yeah, it was great, and it was a long shift, and I mean it's to be expected. I think at the Billie Jean King Cup, we were there last year. We went late last year, and we've gone late this year. And both the night session ties, they had to go the distance, and they went very, very late into the night. I mean, just looking at the ties we had yesterday, including the day session, we had Switzerland versus Italy, with Switzerland coming out as 3-0 victors, Slovakia defeating Belgium 2-1, and then in the night session we had Spain defeating Kazakhstan 3-0, USA defeating Poland 2-1. Now, I want to start with USA-Poland because this was the only match of the day, and it's been the only match of the tournament so far that actually went to a deciding doubles rubber. And you could tell the kind of, it was a really important situation because Coco Gauff came in, was swapped with Taylor Townsend to play with McNally. Obviously, they have a great partnership, and it showed on the court. But it was a very, it was a very tense situation, despite there literally being like 60, 70 odd people in the arena.
Yeah, it was very tense. I think there's been a lot of hype around the US team coming into this. It's a very different team from last year. Last year, Danielle Collins I think she was ranked in the 20s to 30s, and she was the number one player. And this time, on the original lineup with Pegula included, she was the number 4 player. So she's actually the number 3 player here, which is quite surprising. So she played second singles, and that went to a final set tiebreak. And then Lynette managed to edge Keys. So if a couple of points had gone the other way, the US could have lost or potentially lost to Poland without Iga Świątek.
I mean, Magda Lynette for Poland is a very tough customer, and we were talking throughout this tie about USA, and certainly I think they've got one of the stronger doubles teams if they do play Gauff and McNally. But you have to think that their singles lineup is where their kind of challenges arise, particularly when you're the captain and you're looking at the picks, because Danielle Collins coming out as the number 2 pick, fine, I accept that. Yes, she didn't have her best game yesterday, but to me that makes sense. She's a top 15 player, great player. But Madison Keys as the number 1 player, we felt like that's a potential vulnerability, isn't it, for the USA?
Yeah, I think we were talking about this yesterday, that a lot of Madison's great results this year happened early on in the year. Like in Australia, she picked up a title. She also managed to reach the semi-finals there, and she had some fantastic form. But since then, it's been kind of peaks and troughs for her. So her as a number 1 player, not always famously good at problem solving or the pressure of the situation. So Danielle Collins, I think, you would think would be a surefire bet for your second singles. But we did question, when you see Magda Lynette, a very tricky customer who's taken out top 10 players at Grand Slams this year, makes it difficult, gets a lot of balls in court, and is inspired by the occasion. She was always going to cause her problems. Yeah,
I totally agree. To me, Lynette is one of those players, when I'm looking at the Grand Slam draws, I feel like she's always capable of an upset in like the first round or even the second round. But she played fantastic. Keys was a little bit off her game. I mean, Danielle Collins also a little bit off her game. I think the only difference was Collins was able to get the victory. Madison Keys ended up in defeat.
Yeah, I think with Collins, you could tell that she was not going to let go from it. And
she kept letting go of a racket.
No, she did. The only thing she let go of was her racket, but she still managed to find a way to win. I think it was she was going to grind out every point. She was going to try and find a plan B. And
her first serve, I feel, kept her in it. At
she was down break points in that final set. She had a lot of really tough points to get through, and her mental resilience was kind of light and day, with Madison Keys kind of having the opposite when it came to some of those clutch moments in that third set and staying competitive. But we didn't see as much of that Madison Keys match, Joel, did we? Because a certain Danielle Collins was keeping us waiting in the press room for 25 minutes.
How dare she? How dare she? No, it was all great. I mean, she was fantastic when she did come in. It wasn't a right back in a sort of make it quick, I want to get out of here. She was very nice. She was very exploratory with the questions that she was answering.
She gave everyone a lot, didn't she? And she made eye contact with everybody.
How frustrated she cut herself on
well, Joel, I think this is where...
I was annoyed, actually. For me, there was not much Danielle I saw on the court. It was very much drop my racket. There were a few kind of yelps there, here and there, but it wasn't the Danielle I know.
I think it was because she really wanted to keep it, not keep it together, but I think it was she wanted to try and bring it a better level out of herself, rather than if she's playing well and she's more fired up with how she's playing. So I think it was more frustrated than it was, I'm playing well, I've got to take my level higher. It's, what am I doing on some of these shots? And Joel, I have to say, the bravest man in all of the Billie Jean King Cup. Opening question, asking about, you seemed frustrated on court.
I was scared.
And I thought,
using negative words.
Yeah, we had inhibited by the fact that you get on so well with your team, and he survived. She answered it. She was very...
Well, that was interesting, because she did talk about, she wanted to win so desperately for her team, and I was trying to put two and two together, thinking, did she want to win so much that it was affecting her play? I mean, to be fair, she was having none of it, and actually saying she felt inspired by her teammates. And what I actually loved watching the US team from the sideline in the team zone was they were bringing out the tambourine, they were bringing out the cowbell. They didn't necessarily have big kind of following behind them like a Kazakhstan team would and could rely on. But I liked how they brought their own atmosphere within the team to the event. And I mean, I think just thinking about it, that's great to see. Is that a little bit of an indictment of the event and the atmosphere, that they feel like they have to bring their own noise to the setting? I think
it's nothing that unusual when it comes to sort of the Fed Cup previously and the Billie Jean King Cup, that the teams really do get involved. They're often the loudest shouters. I mean, Tomljanovic last year, she was very vocal when it came to the Australian matches. But I think it's great to see, because they are far from home. It is the end of the season. There's not much US attendance here from a journalistic perspective. So, make the noise yourself. And I did feel the only person I felt sorry for was the one man with a sign which said the Danimal Fan Club. And Danielle's boyfriend is about 6'7" and was sitting quite near there. So he must have at least have had a conversation.
Sense, I'm not going to lie.
He stole, What
was he wearing?
He stole the fur jacket, the matching fur jacket that all of the US women wore to the kickoff party. So quite the character.
I know.
Nothing less than for Danielle, but
it was a good win for USA. I feel like, just touching on Madison Keys, do you think Coco Gauff, ideally, I know Coco Gauff's had a long season. I know she didn't perform particularly great in the singles in Fort Worth, in Texas, but do you feel like if USA are going to harbour hopes of winning this event, they're going to need to bring in Gauff for the singles, potentially as well as the doubles?
Yeah, I think they have options, and that's what they said is so great. I think the options they have are really for the doubles rather than for the singles. Danielle Collins has to play their second singles because she's the ranked 3 player. So unless you're going to play a Taylor Townsend or a McNally in your singles, she is the player who will be taking that match. So I think then when it comes to the higher ranked player, Coco is the player who's had the most form this year, and that's why she was picked for the doubles as well. So whether she does doubles duty, doing singles and doubles would be a question. I know that Taylor Townsend and Madison Keys reached the semi-finals of the French. I know that McNally and Taylor Townsend reached the final and almost won against Inyakova Kuchikova in Flushing Meadows. So I think they've got doubles options. I don't think she has to play twice. She won't play twice, I don't think, when it comes to the semi-finals. If they've already got the win, I think it would be strength and depth for them.
She just wants to be on the tambourine. You know, she was having so much fun.
The cowbell, she loved it. Loudest person there. She was having a party after one set finished.
Well, exactly. I mean, we did have on the other kind of night session match, we had Spain defeating Kazakhstan 3-0. This for me was very much on Paula Badosa's racket, because she was on double duty. She played in the singles, she played the doubles, and this was a very interesting match, particularly from a GB perspective, because ideally we were hoping, I think, for a Spain 2-1 victory, but the Spain 3-0 victory basically means that GB need to whitewash Spain today in order to progress.
Yeah, I definitely did not have a good grasp of what the situation was, because had I known, I would have really hoped that Putintseva would have been able to get that win against Diaz that also went to a final set tiebreak.
I mean, the number of match points that she was saving, I was wondering at times whether Parisa Diaz was gonna falter, given the relentlessness of Putintseva and how she was handling and playing those big points.
Yeah, and playing so well when she was behind. I think I was impressed by both of their levels, but I do think when it comes down to it, that Badosa, it depended on which Badosa turned up. Is it the Badosa that kind of stutters through a few games and isn't really present?
Yeah.
And so when she did go up in that first set and did take that first set against Kazakhstan in the second rubber, and then Rybakina. Sorry, I've been doing that all week. Kazakhstan is on my mind after her great season, but with Rybakina, no, I think it was that classic match where she went down a break in the third, and we thought, is Badosa going to be able to fight back? Because quite often she hasn't been able to keep that form going through.
It's made it all more surprising, really, I think.
Yeah, and hopefully it sets her up this sort of tournament, and we saw it with Danielle Collins.
She's not had great form, really.
No, and at the Grand Slams either. I think it's been a bit of a challenging year for her. She talked about some of the mental health issues and challenges that she's had, and maybe a bit like Danielle reaching the final of the Australian. Maybe this will inspire her to get some good form and get some positive momentum going to next year.
Yeah, I mean, that second tie, Badosa versus Rybakina, was, for me, one of the best ties we've seen in the singles.
The level was very high.
It was very, very high. For me, it gave me flashbacks to last year, Bencic versus Kerber, which was played on like the fringe court, the court
miles away, somewhere. You need a map to find it.
And this was going on, whilst
in
the
USA,
velodrome. Yeah, exactly. It was going on in the velodrome, but it was really high quality.
The bigger crowd.
I know, it was. And obviously Kazakhstan, just relentless drumming was great. I mean, just talking about this, the Spanish team in relation to, they've got GB coming up later today. Badosa and Rybakina's games, I feel like they're very similar. They're very kind of aggressive, power from the baseline. And, we spoke about yesterday how Harriet Dart, as much as she tried, it just didn't feel like she was able to kind of put a lid on what Rybakina was throwing at her. And I feel like Badosa would just very much do a similar sort of thing. And we were debating whether just Katie Bolter have a better game for these aggressive players, given what we've seen in the past, against someone like a Sabalenka.
Yeah, that's what my suggestion was yesterday, because I do think that the nature of her game is that she does play well when the pressure is off and she's playing a big hitter. So against Putintseva, there was some expectation there probably from her that she had a close match last time, that she really could take it. And she did take that first set, but the belief wasn't quite there. So free hitting is what you need, and when you're down against someone who's a top player, you do hit through. So I would put Katie Bolter there. I'd put Heather Watson as the second singles.
So you completely change it up in terms of our GB's singles.
Well, we'd have to for the order, because Dart can obviously play second singles. And then I keep the same doubles pair. They played so well, Olivia and Alicia, and there's no reason to switch that one up after that performance, because I do think that Heather Watson could have a really good matchup against Diaz. I think there could be potentially a way for us to win, because you have to think we need 3-0.
I know.
It's not a 2-1.
It's going to be weird. Dare I say, if GB lose that first match, it's going to be a very weird atmosphere, I feel, for the second singles and the doubles, knowing that you can't progress.
Yeah, it is strange. And I'm thinking, why am I resting Harriet Dart on number one? Maybe we put her in the doubles with Heather, potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it is a tricky one, because either you skip Heather, but I don't think the matchup works as well with your other players.
Tough.
It's tough. It's tough to know, but
not Anke Offenvong. I don't want to be in Anke Offenvong's shoes, but yeah, it's going to be tough, and it'll be interesting again to see, you know, the picks that the captains choose, and that is very much part of what is interesting about this format, because
get your calculators out.
You've got to get your calculators out, exactly. I mean, we did have also in the day session, you know, going back to the start of the day, Switzerland, Italy. Switzerland, in the end, whitewashed Italy 3-0. Is Switzerland, unlike most of the other teams where there is strength and depth, I'm thinking about USA, for example, where they have multiple doubles combinations, they can bring in different players for the singles, and I would be like, yeah, they're very competitive. Is Switzerland the most two-person team here in terms of it's the Bencic and Teichmann show?
I think it is, and I think they did. I mean, I tried to ask the question. They talked about rotating, and last year it did work because Golubic did play some really good matches when they rotated between different players. But I think it is the Teichmann Bencic show. They play such.
You know what you're going to get,
and I think it's actually a benefit to the team that they're mentally prepared for that, as opposed to the US team. Am I getting the call? Am I not getting the call?
That is very good.
Am I going to disappoint my team? If you know that you are the 1 and 2 and you're playing, there's no, oh, if I don't do well, then I won't be picked next time. I'm not saying that's how people think, but I asked them the question. I tried to push them on it, and they weren't having it. I did ask about rotating between the team. Is that the plan, or do you think that they'll probably end up doubling up? And Jill Teichmann stopped me in my tracks and said, we won't say that. No, it's a surprise. So I think the surprise is that we'll see them in every match this week.
I agree. Are we going to see Jill Teichmann play more 3-hour matches? I swear. I mean, she's, to me, one of the fittest players on the tour. But to be fair, I had not really heard much of Elisabetta Cocciaretto, but she put up a great fight, because I think we were both fully expecting Trevisan to feature somewhere in the singles, but Cocciaretto was, I thought, very, very hard opponent for Teichmann to put away. You've
got to feel bad for her. I saw her play against Eugenie Bouchard in Guadalajara in 2021. I think she was playing there, and it was a case where she's a bit similar to some of the big hitters who plays very flat, and if she's making the ball, it can be going well, but she can also really miss. And although she did lose this, she had match points. She was up in that final set. She was, I think it was 5-2. She was up and wasn't able to close it. So you've got to feel for her. She is a young player, and she was doing her best for her country against a player much more highly ranked. I was impressed with the showing, impressed that when she got broken, she broke back to force the tie break, but it was one step too far. And another 2-0 result already.
Singles,
so we haven't been getting many deciders apart from that, the US match.
No, we haven't. And the reason for that was because Bencic defeated Paolini in straight sets. I mean, Bencic is very, very dependable.
Very motivated. From what we asked her impressed as well about the controversy last year where there was a late change from Team Russia after
Was it Samsonova?
Samsonova ended up playing number 1, even though she was actually ranked maybe 3 or 4 on the team, and that was because she had a really good head-to-head against Bencic. It was a bit naughty. And kind of reiterating from last year, she did say it was within the rules, but like it is stretching the rules, and now the rule has changed. So I think it's particularly interesting that they are more motivated this year, because I do think if they'd have played in the correct order against the Russian Tennis Federation, they would be the winners. So I'm hoping that they have a good showing here.
It's interesting because you could understand arguably like a two-person team like Switzerland could get frustrated when a team feels like they have so much strength and depth they can just do whatever they want and bring in whoever they want whenever they want. Like a Russia,
a Russian number 4 playing number 1
last year. Exactly. What I did like in the press conference afterwards, Bencic spoke about the feeling woken up from the excitement of Teichmann winning after 3 sets. She doesn't get kind of distracted or kind of frustrated that this match is going on and on and on, and I don't know when I'm going onto the court. Actually, she feels a little bit inspired when she's watching her compatriots play on the tennis court.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely said she was a bit nervous when she was watching that long match and trying to find out what the result would be ahead of her match. It's obviously nicer playing knowing that you're 1-0 up. But still, I think she's able to keep a level head. She's super focused and, as we said, super motivated. And their press conference was an absolute delight in terms of they are vibing.
Jackets. The puff. It for me was giving me
ski season in Switzerland.
It was ski season in Switzerland, exactly. Get me to Verbier. No, but we also had the final match. Slovakia in the day session on court 1. Slovakia defeating Belgium 2-1. I quite enjoyed. As soon as we kind of got in to the stadium, got to the main court, literally within 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, you rushed off to the velodrome court because you were, were you so desperate you wanted to watch Kuzmova versus Bonaventure?
I didn't actually tell you where I was going. I just didn't come back, and I knew that you'd know where I was. I was front row for that one. I was there to find out what the story was in terms of locating Elise Mertens. She obviously wasn't playing in that match, wasn't picked for it, and that was a very interesting press conference, which had many more people from the press than you would expect for Elise Mertens and the Belgium team at an away match. And we did find out
she's been clocking up the air miles.
Clocking up the air miles, but she wasn't an option for selection because she did get in. Wheels on the tarmac at 9:47 last night.
The captain was very specific.
He was tracking that flight, and
also said that Mertens hadn't showered.
She did say that, and there was a joke about maybe not being the freshest when she got off the plane, but what commitment to the team. She did not complain about it at all. She said maybe she would complain if she hadn't have won the title. But she was very positive about it, but she did say when it came to the scheduling around the tournament here, she did say that it would be nice if they did something about it. But she did not complain. But when asked, she obviously wasn't going to say there was a problem. She said, yeah, that would be good, that would be good, that would be nice, smiling. So
I don't blame her. Texas, Madrid, London,
yes,
Glasgow.
3 flights.
That was her trip.
Yes,
so...
and then on the tennis court, getting a win in record time, 6-love, 6-3. And it kind of sets us up for the matches today because Mertens is back on court. She's on singles duty. They have their number 1 and 2 players playing today, unlike yesterday. They need to go for the 3-0 win. And you'd imagine that the team they put together of Elise Mertens and Kirsten Flipkins versus Storm Sanders and Samantha Stosur could be a very interesting doubles match, as well as Elise Mertens, Tomljanovic being a great singles match. So they're in it to win it now after a very difficult start for them.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the specific ties because, again, we were talking yesterday about it's almost like not looking at it tie by tie. It's looking at it match by match because generally speaking, that's what it can come down to. And you really do have to take it one match at a time.
Every set, every game, it matters because when it comes down to it, it's very hard to know what your opponents will do in their other matches. And it's not really about the wins necessarily, it's about how many of those rubbers you can get in individual ties, because that's what it looks like when you look at how they total it up in the groups. So it's a very different perspective, and Harriet Dart was very clear about that the match was still live, even though they were down 2-0 against Kazakhstan.
It's a strange sort of feeling. It's like hard to...
She said it was...
You've got to block that out, don't you? It's like, this tie is dead, because, it can all come into it. Get the calculators out, make it interesting. Who knows how important it can be. I mean... Day 3 is upon us, and we have, again, 4 ties today. We've got Australia versus Belgium, Canada versus Italy, Spain versus Great Britain, and Czech Republic versus Poland.
Well, you know where I'll be, Joel. Wherever Bianca is.
Tomljanovic Mertens?
I can go between. I can go to Bianca first, then I can check out the Mertens match, because I think those two are really going to play the best for their country. And then for the evening's predictions, Joel, I think we probably think that the Czech Republic are going to get the win over Poland.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my final question, was because Czech Republic do not have Barbora Krejcikova. She has dropped out with a hand injury. Does that weaken Czech Republic's chances? Because for me, like USA, they're a team that have strength in depth. So how much does that weaken them, do you think, and not having Krejcikova in the squad? I
think it will prove to be a bit of a challenge.
Because she seemed very handy on the singles and doubles court.
They were lacking last year a doubles combination that when it did not include Krejcikova and Siniakova playing together. They were trying to rest her a bit last year because she was obviously going to Guadalajara. Pliskova's here for first singles, but they have got some quite kind of untested players, like Mukova's only just coming back. She's been playing on some of the smaller tournaments in the UK. Vondrousova just picked up a title. They're going to have to play some of the levels that we saw last year when Vondrousova was the stand-up player of the tournament for us, I think, probably, given some of the way she was dismantling opponents. So unknown quantities there, but you have to think that the combined level of the team is probably enough to take down Magdalene.
You'd think so.
The one, yeah.
Lynette
Fetch was also good, I've got to be honest,
Yeah.
That's a disservice to her.
A little bit of a surprise package in terms of how hard they fought.
If Iga was there, they could have won.
I know. That is a very interesting question you brought up. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how all the ties get on today. We're going to be back tomorrow for our day 3 catch-up. But I think you've enjoyed listening to this day 2 catch-up of the Billie Jean King Cup finals in Glasgow with Tennis Weekly. But for now, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.